Welcome to the latest and greatest of our series on consciousness, metaphysics, aka the Metaphysical Corner. Um, I apologize profusely in that we did not have a show for a couple of weeks. We've been exceptionally busy. You may have noticed we have a change of venue. We're down in the basement now, as we're mainly my wonderful wife does a lot of her creations down here. Um, our little craft room upstairs, or our spare bedroom where I was doing them, has become kind of overloaded. So we'll just be doing them here for a while. There are many, and when I happened to disappear, if you will, for a couple of weeks, like I did, and I did because we had a show on the west side of Detroit, and which went pretty well. And we have another pagan party coming up at the end of July. In a couple of days, I'm leaving to go to Boston for a week for training for my company. And then I'm off for 2 weeks vacation. But I'll be plenty busy. In all the times that I have spare time, and I'm sure my wife will verify this, I'm constantly reading, studying something. If I turn the camera on, my library is right here, and the amount of books in there is staggering. And I look at them, I think I've actually read most of them. But when I look at things from a metaphysical viewpoint, and I know where I left off, we're going to continue in just a few minutes. I try to, as I told you, you have to remember that I have been, I was brought up in the scientific realm where anything metaphysical is not taught or mainly even believed. And, it's only half the picture. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm going to show you. See, this is the book I'm currently going through. Medical Physiology. And I mean to tell you can see how thick this book is. This is a meaty book. In the last 2.5, actually closer to a month, I've gotten through that much of it. I got that much to go. It is amazing, utterly amazing. This is the science. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the scientific knowledge that is here. It is there, and it's awesome. But it's only half the picture. But to get the whole picture, you got to have half of the picture from the scientific viewpoint, half from the metaphysical viewpoint, which this book will not touch. And I found it's amazing. Okay, I just finished a chapter in learning how cells, how they get stuff, the signaling that cells get from one another. Could be hormones, could be enzymes. How it works. It is complex beyond belief. It's amazing. It's utterly amazing how someone can read this and even the thought never crossed their mind. Like, how did this happen? Where does this? It's so automatic. There's thought behind it. Don't address that at all. And I found, it's amazing how many they'll describe something scientifically, technically, and quite often it says, we don't know exactly how it works. That's where I think the metaphysics comes in. One of the greatest, and by the way, I have every time I come across that in here, I actually underline it or circle it or something because it is a bunch of them. But this one, It's talking about specialized cell types, especially, the stem cells. I think most people know that. How do the cells know what to become? What type of cells? Bone cells, nerve cells, heart cells, cardiac cells, muscle cells, whatever. It says specific cell types arise from stem cells by activating a differentiation specific program of gene expression. The interplay of environmental signals, cues, and transcription factors that control the processes of cellular differentiation constitutes one of the great mysteries of modern biology. And that is a heavy statement. What they're admitting is, it's almost like, where's the universe come from? They're saying, how this happens is a mystery. They don't know, and they never will. From a scientific viewpoint, this is exactly where the metaphysics of an energy comes into play, and they won't admit that. I have just started the chapter on gene expression and mainly transcription of, and what that is involved with is DNA in your cells. Every last cell has it, as I said, except red blood cells. Every cell has the instructions to build over 10,000 proteins, in the DNA. And what this chapter describes, this one upcoming for me, is how it does it. How that DNA is read and how the how the instructions in the DNA are carried out and the proteins are built with which constitutes life. I can't wait to see how many times I'm reading there. We don't know. We don't understand how it happens. This is what happens, but we don't know how it works or how it happens or how the process. It's it's down to the nitty gritty of life, but it's once again, it's only half the picture. But it's important to understand. If you got a whole picture, you got to have half the picture here, half the picture there. And you get one half, and one half you get 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. So I find that interesting. So don't get me, I love learning about because this is what I was brought up in. But I'm constantly, as I read almost every last sentence, I think to myself, please make that step. Please say something. That acknowledge that there's something more, but they won't do it. In addition, I'm also an amateur, very very amateur astrologer. I don't know if maybe once I retire, finally, I could do it on a full-time basis. But one of my favorites is Del Horoscope. And I actually am going to respond to the editor here. He wrote something here. I just want to pass this along to you. Because I thought it was good. It's his editor's page. He has one in every issue, but this one just kind of struck a nerve with me. And I'm going to respond to him. His email address is here. And he says, Dear readers, when I had my first astrology reading, I was told your mother is a bitch and your grandmother's going to die soon. Both were true. Sorry, Mom, I love you. The astrologer saw my inner world and a yet-to-be outer event. I was hooked on both the psychological and predictive astrology, which, with a few variable exceptions, have both been accurate forecasters. Also, I have fateful planets in the 12th house, so the fate versus free will accuracy, I've always had a fascination about it. To what extent are our lives determined by fate, planetary cycles, others' wills, family conditioning, psychological trauma, karma? Are we free to shape our destinies? an underlying assumption of free will is that if we could choose just the right approach to conquer our fate, we could do it. Quantum physics, neuroscience, psychology, and spiritual science keep telling us that we co-create our own reality. But classical determinism says otherwise. I'm petting my dog down here. So those who are frustrated, and we went through that create your own reality days, but are we able to create this world according to our desires? So they become frustrated. And it comes to Einstein's equation, is the universe friendly? Can we really mold the world according to our desires? Free will is a burden if you believe you have the power to create change in your world and it doesn't happen. Classical Greek tragedies, on the other hand, are overrun with characters who suffer and must surrender to hard fates, and their tragedy is that they isn't that they could overcome their fates and didn't; it's that they couldn't. Of course, in modern times, we have greater free will choices than the ancients did. Sometimes it's a terrible fate leading to an awakening, a life-changing event. So do the stars compel? Are we passive victims of our charts? Or can we turn unproductive patterns into productive pathways? Can we turn squares and oppositions into positive transformers? The founding editor of Del Horoscope, to them, these humanistic astrologers brought us psychological astrology. Counseling became a companion. One describes the event, one the place to understand and heal, one a statement on how you perceive the world about you, and one is a vivid description of the world and its circumstances. What if, instead of living at our own set point in the charts, acting simply out of instinct, we strove to become aware of our patterns and work towards self-improvement and enlightenment? Do we become empowered then to make choices in response to what fate brings us? Choices that we might otherwise not make if we didn't have this knowledge? Might free will increase in accordance with our ability to grasp spiritual reality and take responsibility for our part in it? This letter briefly touches on the core issues relevant to any chart analysis and addresses fundamental issues and principles about the way the cosmos work and how we can become better participants in the creation of our lives. This is a healthy debate. I'm not concluding this with some new astrological theory, just giving us all food for thought. My wish for us lies not in astrology, history, or fate, but in the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and perhaps above all, the wisdom to know the difference. I always like that saying. I always have. It says, what are your thoughts about this? Write to me at his address here. And I'm doing so. What I think, and I think I'll give you what I think here, and I think that's where we'll close this show for the moment. I'm reminded, I think we've all seen it, the movie Forrest Gump, when he's staying at his wife's grave and he says, I don't know if life is, all fate, or if it's all free will. He goes, I think it's a little both. And I agree. I couldn't agree more. No truer statement movies has ever been made. We do have a lot of free will, and here's what I think. This is just my opinion, and you may agree, you may not. I think we have a great deal of free will. But some things, I guess the big items, if you will, are faded. I think who you end up with, um, who you marry or have a relationship with, that's the heavy duty stuff. This is, maybe it's these, if you have come here to learn lessons, it's where these lessons are taught. If it be from a circumstances, a person, a place, a thing, an animal, whatever, that's, I think, is fate. You're not escaping it. Okay? Now, what I mean by free will is on a given day, if nothing heavy duty is going, okay. If you, we went out to breakfast this morning. Where we went to a restaurant called Sonny's Kitchen here locally in Detroit, of which are thousands of restaurants. We could have easily have picked a different restaurant, and our lives would not be any different. So this is where I think on the more mundane things, so to speak, things that really have no impact, or where you go on vacation, that type of thing. It's free will. You're free to do what you want, because it's not, but where it's a quote unquote life-changing event, where you're coming to a fork in the road, that's where stuff gets faded. When I look at how I met Valerie, in the way that all worked out, I am 1,000,000,000% convinced that was heavily faded. And it wouldn't have happened if, my previous wife, Terry, hadn't divorced me. I thought that was the end. I never thought would I get married again. Well, here I am. Best thing that ever happened to me. And, so, yeah. Now, that being said, does that mean things you are fated to do? Is it, you always make the right decision? Not necessarily. I think the universe, oh boy, if you're destined to come here and do certain specific things, and you come up in life of time to make some of those decisions, you still have you still, even with the fated things, you have the free will to make that decision or not. Sometimes making no decision is making an absolute decision. And what happened? Okay, when I met Valerie, I look at with her and me, and the way it all happened, and I think to myself, I look at it, it's like the universe was saying, basically, pushing you both in that direction. It says, okay, I did the hard work. You two are together. You know each other. Now it's up to you to make it happen. Should you be with her? Yes. But you still have to make that decision. But I made it possible for this person to be in your life because it was fated. So I think even when you have cases of things that are fated, you still have the capability of walking away. But if you make a decision that was fated, and you should have done something in the affirmative or negative, and you do the opposite for whatever reason, that's where life gets greatly complicated. There are how many times in your life I have, oh my God, everyone has, you sit there and say, I knew better, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, I knew better, and yet I did the opposite. That's what I'm talking about. And usually gets you in trouble for one way, shape, or form or another. Or, whatever. Oh, I shouldn't have drunk and drive. Drink and drive. I've never done that. I mean, no, that's not me. But, you get the drift. So, that's where you have gone against the grain is when you start paying up, you pay a penalty, so to speak. And I've known people who, their lives are, have been seen like screwed up right from the beginning. And they, why does this keep happening to you? Because you keep making the wrong decisions. And I don't want to sound sexist, but like women who keep going after the wrong kind of men. That's a real biggie to me. They keep, you want to hit them on the side of the head. Haven't you learned? As they say, the ultimate stupidity is doing the same exact thing and expecting a different result. If you keep picking the same kind of person, it ain't going to get better. And you're going against the grain. And in Valerie's case and mine, I think we both are. We've both been through hell. They've been very different hells, but we've both been through hell, and I think we're a reward for each other. Always have. I've known her. She's lived with me now for 4 years. Been married almost 2. So, she's one of the best things that ever happened to me. So. That's the free will versus the karma fate. It is a debate, and I really think it's I think at times it's a, on certain days you have almost totally free will. And other days there are some really are fated. It depends upon the circumstances, depends upon what you're doing. It depends on whether you come to a point in your life where you're supposed to make such a decision. That will change. We we don't make many in life what I would call really, truly life-changing decisions. But when they come, they're huge. And because it changes everything. You're down a different fork in the road. And those are the ones that I believe are fated, and the universe certainly tries to make you realize that this is what you're supposed to do. And hopefully you make the right decision. So I think we're going to stop it here for now. I will maybe try to do one more before I go away for a week. And we'll get back into I want to get into the homeopathic applications of medicine, because that is truly a fascinating subject. All right? We will talk to you soon.